All right, so hello everybody for our Plants 3D user community virtual meetup for September. My name is Martin Busse. I'm a designated support specialist at Autodesk. Also, we have Nabil on the call. You will be muted. You can ask questions. You can ask for getting unmuted if you prefer talking. The webinar is recorded and will be published. So if you don't want to hear yourself talking on the internet or something like that, then you shouldn't talk in this call. Yeah, that's me. I'm designated support specialist with focus on Plants 3D and BIM 360. And this is Nabil. He's also on the call. He will take care about questions and assist me. Nabil, a few words?
So welcome everyone. I'm here to assist Martin and you guys with your question, and I am a technical specialist on the AEC space in plants in particular.
Yeah, and already since 8 years, so 3 years longer at Autodesk rather than me. So today's topic is, and here is our agenda. Of course, general updates and news about Plants 3D. And then the topic of today, pipe supports. And well, the follow-up questions from last month, they have been answered in the call. Also, there should be already a handout available for download, which does include the Q&A from the last session. So I'm not going to talk about this one. The objective overview of pipe supports, creating custom supports, tips, tricks, best practice. The session generally is intended to be a casual engagement with a small portion for news and information, followed by a more general discussion about the product. And very welcome you to ask questions in the question panel or after the presentation in the call if there is time left. Safe harbor statement, I might talk about future developments for products up to my best knowledge, but sometimes plans change, so it could be I'm saying something that is finally not true, and this is always something you need to know and shouldn't make any big decisions based on what I'm saying about future developments. Plants 3D news. Okay, first of all, this EMEA call for Plants 3D is our last call because it will, so up to now we had 3 calls, one for APAC, Asian region, one for EMEA, Europe region, and one for Americas region. It will now be aligned to what we have for other products. And for other products, we have just one call. So this call, these 3 calls will be replaced with one call. So they will be held, I guess, still friendly for EMEA. So kind of in the late afternoon. That will be the morning for America. But yeah, there will be just one call rather than these 3 calls that we had up to now. I'm not sure if I will still, me and Nabil will still be presenting. Probably the America specialist will do it. So Jason and Joel. Yeah, maybe if they're on holiday or something, I will replace them, but or Nabil. But for now, it doesn't look like we're gonna be involved too much in these calls in the future. So this is our last EMEA call. Let's try to make it valuable for you. So Plants 3D news, AU 2020 is virtual and it's international. So it's international in regards of languages. The difference to the AUs that we know is, so they are usually held in English, but these are held in all the languages of this world. If they decided to present, and so the presentations, they got submitted in advance as recordings, so they will be translated into English. So this gives you access to all the sessions in all the languages because they are translated with subtitles. There might be also there are some live sessions. Of course, the general sessions will be will be live, and also there will be some discussion meetings. Those are live, but the presentations are mainly recorded and again translated in case they are held in a language other than English. No cost, so you don't have to pay anything to attend, just you need to register. And I think the registration is closed. Nabil, do you have any information on this? When the well, actually,
If you mean if the registration is closed
yeah,
or
it's
not?
already open. Yeah, it's already open because here you see on this slide it's saying it opens mid-September, which isn't very accurate. So I was wondering if it's maybe already open. Okay, we are not quite mid-September, but close.
Yeah, I think it's the class submission which is probably closed.
Yeah,
However,
well, that's closed for
yeah,
sure. But
yeah.
the registration opens. Well, let's stick to this. It opens in mid-September. So on the AU webpage, you will find the
Yeah,
exact
exactly.
date. Yeah, and yeah, I would register soon if you are interested in the topics, because there might be limitations, technical limitations that I don't know, maybe in some cases you're not able to register for one session. But on the other hand, usually the technology is very strong. So calls with 1,000 participants, for example, shouldn't be any issue at all. Still, I would recommend to register if you're interested in attending sessions, virtual sessions on the AU 2020. So that starts in November 17 for the America side, and November 18th for Asia and EMEA, so Europe and Africa and Middle East. And yeah, you see here is the address au.autodesk.com to register. Okay, pipe supports. Let's start with this. Pipe supports, what Plan3D offers is some parametric templates that you can use. And well, if you take a look at the user interface of Plan3D, you will see several places where you find functionality for supports. So on the right side, you see there is the pipe spec, actually the pipe support spec that is always shown in the Plan3D tool. And this comes from the pipe support spec PSPX and PSPC, which is out of the box in every standard project, and this is where it originates. Can be modified, this pipe spec. On the ribbon on top, you see several buttons. Well, first of all, create, and here you have to be careful. If you click create, it's not offering you the pipe the supports from the spec, but from the variants. So that's a difference. It means in the spec you can have a selected set of supports, but if you click this create on top, it will be always showing you all the supports that are in the variants zip. So that means all the supports available in Plant 3D, all the templates for supports available in Plant 3D. So you have several buttons here. For example, the Attach Supports button. Well, let's first start with Convert Supports, because Attach is kind of a sub-function of this Convert Supports, or the result of Convert Supports. With Convert Supports, you can convert AutoCAD objects, blocks, or solids into pipe supports. So once you converted supports, you might want to attach additional objects, and then you use this Attach Support button. Also, Detach Supports is, well, the opposite, where you can move objects out of your supports, assuming that you created it with the Convert Supports button. A function maybe not so much used, toggle lock point of support mode. Well, just read what they say here. When the lock point of support mode is on a support that is grip, edit, copied, or moved, will adjust to maintain the same connection point elevation. So as you see from this little picture below, if you have this lock on, and if you would move this support from the left side, from what you see on the left side to this upper level on the right side, it will automatically adjust the length. But I would say it's not such a important function. And then you have Attach Supports. This is this support on support function, which lets you connect a secondary support on a support in order to make it visible on the ISO and in the bill of materials.
Sorry to interrupt you, Martin. We already
Yes.
have a question from Steven. Thanks, Steven, for the question. He's asking, what are the options to automatically generate pipe support drawing with automatic labels, MTO, and dimensions preferable?
Well, as you know, in Plant 3D, we have orthos and we have isos. So on the ISO, you will find information about the pipe support. That means the position, the description, and we have the orthos, where you can put dimensions, where you can explain in the context of surrounding objects how this support shall be installed. We don't have a fully automated drawing generation that will create a drawing for each support with all the information separately. What we have is the orthos and the isos. So these are the tools where you transfer the information according to the supports that you placed in the 3D. Of course, we also have reporting, where you can extract bill of material for ordering and so on. I hope this does roughly answer the question.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the question. So custom pipe ports is another thing that is interesting. So you can convert, as we just said, AutoCAD blocks into, we will give you some details later, into pipe supports. And also we have Python scripts. And Python scripts are quite, well, it needs programming skills, first of all, if you want to use Python scripts. But yeah, of course, you're quite flexible then if you're using this, and really some customers are using this and make really nice things with it. There are some links at the end of this presentation where you can find an entry point if you want to create Python scripts yourself, and also there are some links to third-party vendors who offer advanced supports and steel templates based on Python and for the use in Plant 3D. We will see that later. We can have a look at that. When talking about Python scripting, just a little hint. So most of the templates that we have out of the box, they have one grip. If you're a programmer, you can also create more than one grip, as you see on the left side. So this set linear dimension for certain parameter, usually you have it for one parameter, but you can also do it for two and probably also for more parameters, which is interesting for you if you're creating supports, because you might want to create more than one handle. Just a side note, really just for the ones who dealing with these Python scripts. Custom 3D blocks. So, well, you can use existing or vendor provided pipe support models, and the geometry can be 3D solids or AutoCAD blocks, and the process is simple. You scale your support to fit the pipe diameter, you position, you use plant pipe support command to convert it on the fly. That means in your drawing, and you assign an S key in the properties palette for the isometric representation. Well, you also can use it geometry in your support specs. We will come later to this. So this is on the fly. On the fly means you have you create support objects in your drawing, and of course, for a new project, you could copy them over into your new project, but they are not part of your tool palette. So in order to get them into the tool palette, you would need to put them into the pipe support spec, and here you can also use AutoCAD blocks as a geometry. So this is supposed to be a video. Let's see. So here's, as you see, there's a block. It's an AutoCAD block, and somebody does convert it into a pipe. You see it from the handles that first it was a AutoCAD block, and now it's really a Plant 3D support object. And you have to be careful. You need to do this conversion in the shaded mode. If you don't do it in the shaded mode, if you try it in the wireframe, you will fail. Do it in the shaded mode. Actually, it's gonna be just impossible in the wireframe mode to pick the center of the connection to the pipe. In order to create such on-the-fly supports, you will need to place them on a pipe. If you don't place them on a pipe, they will not get created. But still, you can use them on a different pipe later, and you can make copies and so on, but you need to create them on a pipe. So that's something you also need to know. So yeah, if you want to put them into the catalog, into your pipe supports catalog, and then transfer it into your spec for use from the tool palette, you can, well, you first need to, you need to use blocks, AutoCAD blocks, so you cannot use solids. If you use solids, then you have to make a block out of it, and then you use the command plant part convert to convert this block into something that Plant 3D can use for the catalog. And there are some things that you need to consider when you do this. Yeah, and here, this last point. If you create Well, if you add a new spec items, they will show up on the tool palette. But if you want to delete some, it looks like you delete them from the spec, but in order to update the tool palette, you would need to delete the existing tool palette and then recreate the tool palette, which you do from the spec viewer. In the spec viewer, there's a button to create tool palette from a spec. Maybe I should show you this. Actually, I'm talking here about so you see on the right side here, we have our palette. And then if you go to the spec viewer, and you can select the pipe support spec, and there you have actually a button to create this tool palette. Here. So you could first delete it from here, delete palette, and then create it again from this spec viewer. So that's because you cannot directly delete particular items from the tool palette. You need to do this adjust your spec, then delete tool palette, and then create it again from the spec view. So as I said before, there are some things to consider when you create parts for use in the catalog. So I'm talking here about the plant part convert command. And this one requires, in order to work properly, it requires you to align first your block, your AutoCAD block in that way that the pipe axis will align to the X axis of Plant 3D in the world coordinate system. And also you would need to create the port. So that's what you do with the plant part convert command. You need to create this port in the pipe, or in the center, where the center of the pipe will be, and then again in X direction you will define the direction of this port with the plant part convert. So this is something to consider when you prepare an AutoCAD block for use in the catalog, in the pipe supports catalog. Then finally you can use it in your spec that will always show up on the right side, the tool palette. So that's how this works. So when talking about S keys, S keys determine how the symbols show up in the ISO for the particular supports. And you see here a little table that contains some S keys and images as a preview. And but this you can actually adjust in the project symbol styles, where you can create new blocks, and in the ISO folder with the ISO ASCII ACAD block map XML, you can then create a connection between the symbol in the ISO symbol styles and the symbol ASCII. So then you can connect your symbol with the your support, your 3D support with the symbol, with the ISO symbol using this ASCII, and that will then result in the symbol on the ISO. So that's that's a standard thing, not just for supports. That also applies for the, of course, for the 3D piping elements. So here there are some tips and tricks for the supports. Dynamic input makes sense because you can easily input, I think we have a short video that shows it. And let me start this video. Okay, so as you see, when this dynamic input is on, then you can easily input dimensions, and with the tab key, you can jump between the number fields or the dimensions in order to edit them, in order to reach them. So this is one tip. And just so in case you don't find it, it looks like this: dynamic input on here. In case you don't find it, then it's not activated, and you have to activate it clicking on this sandwich symbol here and then going up to the dynamic input and enabling it. Enabling means it's there here on the bar, but then you also need to activate it in order to use it. So as you can see, for example, if I will move this, now it will offer me the dimensions, and if I can jump with the tab key between the particular dimensions in order to reach them and change them. So tip 2, support on support. So, well, that's what we said before, but here's a little demo. What you do, if you have the situation where you have two supports connected to each other in order to support the pipe, you can use the supports on supports command. First, you select the first support and then the second. So this will give you some internal connection. It's not a visible connection between these two parts, and as a result, both parts will show up on the ISO that's connected to this pipe, and also on the ISO drawing area you will see a hint, or you will see a reference to the position in the bill of materials. So that's something you might want to use. And then assigning tag numbers. So out of the box you can assign tag numbers, but they will not show up out of the box on the ISO. That's why, and it's something I can quickly show you here. You should just grab this. You should just grab this tag here, and then in your ISO style, you go into your ISO config XML, and then you find the part where all these component schemes are. It's a very fat block, easy to find. This, no, not this one. It's in the upper part, I think. I thought it was easy to find. So, yeah, it was too fast. Okay, here it is. So here we have the component schemes. Then I can add another one. This one has a name. Some more information has to be enabled. Grouping means that several support related labels will be grouped together. Important, the filter. So it's filtering supports. So this label will apply to supports, and it will display the tag field. The filters are, so in case you want to change this filter, you would find it in the very end of this file, where you find the support type is support. You could, for example, if there's one support where you don't want to have a label on, you could say and S key is not, and then put this particular S key. I think there are some examples using S key. As you can see here, the S key is used for the filter. Well, just a side note. Finally, you just put it there, and in this case, it should already work. Let's go to Plon3D. Here we have support, and here we have a tag. It's already tagged. I can tag the whole thing, create an ISO from it. And then something happens that didn't happen out of the box. The tag will be displayed in the drawing area of the ISO. And that's what we accomplished with adding the component scheme that I just copied out of the presentation into the ISO config XML file of my ISO symbol, of my ISO style, that I want to use. So here you see that apart from the position that refers to this hanger, I also get the tag displayed in the drawing area. Next thing, yeah, and then on the orthos you can also use this tag. So in Plon3D, in your ortho, you create ortho and you use this same model that we just did with this hanger. And then if you right click here, you can also annotate. You can find piping. It's a piping element, and then you can select the support annotation. In the configuration, you can actually modify or create new annotations to use for the use on your ortho. Okay, next. Yeah, this is what I just showed you as a slide. And then here are my some tricks that I was using when I was working with Plon3D. Somebody would shake their heads if they see how I do this, but yeah, still I want to show you because it can be helpful. And well, the first thing is about positioning supports in Plon3D. So usually, and that's how it's built up, you just put them on the pipe and then you move them where you want them to be. But sometimes you want to use them in a different way. You want to probably, yeah, I will give you one example, and then there will be grips lacking, and then there's a trick. You can just explode them and measure, and then undo the explode, and then you have what you need. So let me show you what I mean. So let's say you have such a support, and then you want this one to kind of sit this shoe on that one for some reason. Then yeah, first you could move this into place here. That's not a big problem. But then you will have a problem to find the correct measurement here, because you have a limited set of snaps. You can just explode these. Don't worry, we will undo this and then make a measurement, and then take this measurement. So this is inches. I'm not so familiar how to deal with this, but don't forget to undo. We will do it right now. We will undo, and you see now, okay, it's a support, and then you move it, and then you insert what you did measure. No, nothing. Somehow I missed to copy it. So let's do this again. Let's copy it from here, and then I just want to enter it here in order to align. Oh, but somehow that's what I'm saying here. Somehow I'm unfortunately not capable of dealing with these inches, as maybe I should just take this part. Not really, excuse me for this, it's really not my world, inches and feet and such a thing. So let's first undo, and then just to show you that the measurement was worth it. No, couldn't make it. But anyway, this is how it works. This is how it can work. You can exploit your supports. You can make a measurement. You can undo the exploit. You do this in order to get snaps supplied for your supports, which have very limited snaps. So yeah, that's this. And then the other thing, maybe less shocking for you, this workflow is well, you have let's say you have the support and you want to connect it to this steel beam, but it's kind of not aligned yet. And yeah, you can make a measurement and you can move it, but there's well, if you very have lots of practice with this tool, then maybe that's faster for you. You just align your view, and it has to be a straight view. So it cannot be like viewing from, cannot be any, yeah, it has to be a straight view, like top, right, or in what's in the middle, but it cannot be this well, ortho view from the side. That wouldn't work. So you can now take this one by grip, and then you just go and find the snap, which is in this case the middle, and that works. So it's the support will still be connected to the pipe, but it will be then aligned to your steel beam, which makes it easy then to connect it here in order to get the right length of the rod. So that's another trick, I would call it. And then,
sorry to interrupt, Martin. We have a question from Henrik.
yes.
It's about Python. So he mentioned, I have made some custom supports in Python for Swedish standards to use in plant. I have found it hard to find examples and tutorials on your webpage, usually third-party information. Do you have any recommendation of where to find good examples?
Yeah, I have a recommendation, because what we have is the links on the, and here the first, which one is it? No, where are the Python? Oh, here, sorry. So this is about Python scripting. And if you take a very close look at this post, then you will see how you can get a huge amount of examples if you read this article closely. The link is in the link is in the presentation. I'm not
Perfect.
gonna, I will not go into detail now, but you will, if you carefully read this, you will find how to do it, and then you will be able to find lots of examples. Okay, going back,
Perfect.
I hope this answers your question. I mean, you will, after you read this, you will know what I mean. It will be very clear. It's not
Perfect,
just,
Martin.
don't want to
Thanks
go
a
into
lot.
details.
Yeah. And the
Yeah, thank you
links
for the
are on the
question. You're
yeah.
welcome. So this one is very important. It should be the first thing that we mention about supports anyway. This one is very important because if you once experience this, it's kind of a trap. If you once experience this, you will be very angry. So you should avoid this. And what I'm talking about is you are in a project and everyone is using the supports, and they are adjusting the parameters in order to get the shape and the length of the rods and everything correctly. And then somebody's doing the spec update, and then somebody see, oh, my hanger needs update. So of course, let's do it. So he's doing this, and then afterwards, his hanger defaults to what it was when he originally brought it in from the tool palette. So it's totally wrong now. And this guy maybe doesn't notice and saves, and then the problem is in the world. And this is because, or this can be easily prevented. Let's keep it like this. And the next slide is showing it. If you insert this in the component designation of all of your parts in the spec, the parametric information, and it has to be so capital matters here, has to be like this, then it will not happen, this problem. So there's three possible values for this component designation. Is either blank, and that's how it is out of the box. Maybe it shouldn't be parametric out of the box. Or it's custom. A custom is if you want to change parameters, but still you want to be able to update it from the spec. But this will default also, the part on the spec update. And then we have parametric. Parametric means you cannot then use the spec update anymore for the supports. It means if you working on the supports while you are doing the project and you say, oh, no, I changed some supports, I was working on some scripts or whatever, and now please user update it. They will update it and they will get the updated part, but also they will default back to the original parameters. So usually what you want, because usually you're not working on your supports during the project, you're just using the standard ones. What you will want is this parametric. Parametric will avoid that the parts will default back on the spec update. But you need to make sure that this information is in the spec parts. Every single part needs it. Otherwise, you can run into problems. And so this is something that came with 2018.1.1. Hasn't been there already, this parametric option, but it's there, and is something you should prepare your supports on your project with in order to avoid problems. Another known issue is that the supports don't align with the pipe, and to be honest, I don't think it's a big problem, because yeah, well, it could lead to misunderstandings. It depends on the hanger type if it's a problem or not. For example, this one, this particular one here should be aligned, while for the hanger, I don't know, I mean, I think it's not really critical for this hanger to align it. And then you see this other one this is actually correct with this roller here. But the shoes, of course, they look. But on the other hand, I'm wondering if you have such a slope and okay, if you want to fix this shoe somewhere, then it might make sense. So the Python script, so this out of the box, our scripts, our templates don't support the alignment with the pipe. And we have a workaround that's linked here where you just explode them and create a custom support of it, align it with the pipe, and then you have it. So that's kind of the workaround for this problem. Okay, and then here we have actually the links, and let me just, so this about the first links about Python, and then yeah, lots of Python related information here for the developers among you, or the scripters, I would say. You don't have to be a developer, but you have to be familiar with scripting in some way. Programming basics help you, of course. But then also we have a link to the App Store, which might be interesting. Let's just have a look at this. If it's once coming. No. Yeah, so on the App Store you find some some additional pipe supports for purchase. I think there is another one that does also include steel work, secondary steel, just as a side note. So here you find you can buy more things if you want to do it yourself. Okay, so
just one more question, Martin. Sorry to interrupt. So it's from Steven again. Thanks, Steven, for posting those questions. He's asking, so if in parametric, if the support needs updating, will it retain the user customization, or will it reset to default also in parametric is set? What does the parametric
in parametric, it will not update at all. The spec update is suppressed by this parametric setting. And this is usually what you want, because you want to work with supports, you want to adjust the parameters, you want to change the shape, and you don't want to be in risk that somebody thinks he has to do a spec update on them and then they default back. So that's what parametric setting is suppressing. Of course, you cannot update them anymore if you chose parametric. You cannot, but this is what you usually don't do with standard pipe supports, that you update them. You actually cannot really update them. You need to be a hacker to update them. You know what I mean? So there's no question to use parametric. If you're using your own supports, your own Python supports, you don't need to make them parametric if you think you want to change them during the project.
Makes sense, yeah. Thanks, Martin.
Yeah, so are there any more questions? We could also open the mics, unmute all participants. Let's see. So if somebody wants to talk, I think they can do it now, but they need to unmute themselves before. or you just write into the questions panel if there are more questions about the Plant 3D supports. Well, maybe one more thing, and a question often been asked, and there's a clear answer to this question. And let me show you this. So in Plant 3D, your supports have parameters, and you can change them, but you cannot report them. And some users want to do it. They just want to report out this information. And this is not possible in Plant 3D. This is possible in Plant 3D with use of API. And yeah, there's no other way to do it. It's not difficult if somebody is familiar with API. And here I'm not talking about Python. I'm talking here about the Plant 3D SDK that you can download, and with Visual Studio, and based on C#, for example, you can create your own scripts that, for example, could access all these parameters and copy them into a field that is accessible for you for reporting. Let's say, for example, you create a new custom property, or you put it into existing field, like, let's say, the comment. So that's possible by API, and it's right now just possible by API to report these design parameters.
So following Steven's question, Henrik had another question. He said he's asking, so you can only set the parametric designation in the spec, not in the actual catalog?
That's a good question, and I think I did investigate this before, but I don't remember, to be honest, and that's something that we missed here. Let's just have a quick look into the spec, into the catalog, to see if we have this field available in the catalog. So in the supports catalog, let's see. So I think it's a size field. So we have two different kinds of properties. One is a family property, and one, but in this case, could be both actually. I don't find it here. And on the size panel, I don't find it either. Yeah, it looks like it's something you need to do in the spec. We have, of course, we have still these custom properties, but let's, no, it looks like it's not there, and you need to do it in the spec. So that's the that's the situation, yes. But okay, I mean, this pipe, these standard pipe specs, they never change. So you do it once and then you have it, and then you use it for the next project. You use it in your template project, so you have it. Something you do once. And if you say, okay, but and I mean, the spec editor, let's open the spec. The spec editor lets you, just in case you don't know it, sometimes things are so you don't have to write it for every part. It goes like this. you go into the spec, for example, then you copy this one, Control C, and then you select all the rest, and then you Control V, and then it's there. So that's, of course, you need to do it for every family. Okay, you can say that's too much work. I want to do it differently. You could consider using a database editor then, which is not perfectly recommended always, because you might break something if you're not familiar with this. So yeah, the spec finally is a SQLite database, and so the PSPC file actually, so the spec consists of 2 files, and PSPC part is a SQLite database, and this one you can open with this editor. And then the question is where to find this, designation. Component designation. So here you have every part of the spec in one table. You could change it by SQL, where you say, well, how the exact SQL string goes, I cannot tell you on the fly, but yeah, you would need to create an SQL string that will actually update every row of this engineering items table and replace the non-existing entry with this parametric string, and then something like update all set component designation is parametric. But yeah, I'm sure if I start now messing around with SQL, it will not work immediately. Maybe something we can deliver you on in the Q&A part of the handout later.
Yeah, exactly, Martin. Thanks. And there is another question is from David. He said it's not related, but how did you add the annotation option to the ortho? Can you show him again quickly?
Well, the annotation option, it's always there. I didn't do anything. The only thing that, no, actually I didn't do anything. So on 2021, on this default project, on the sample project, I can already, I have the tag activated. Well, I can go, so in case they want to change it, I can show them where that is. But this one I was really using out of the box setup. Finally, in Plant 3D, when going to the support elements, you will find here also annotation setup, and here you find well, I think it's this oval. Well, actually, let's see which one is selected for the supports, and yeah, annotation style is the oval tag style. Tag format name, that's something that you configure here. It's just the tag, nothing more. And the oval tag style is selected, and it's coming from somewhere above. So yeah, really above. So here, if I want to edit this, well, as this tag applies to many elements, I would create a new one if you want to change it on the support level, and then register it in the annotation style name here. So that's where you configure it. And then in the orso, I just did the right click here and I said orso annotate. And then I went to the piping and then I went to the support annotation tag. And then I did select and the annotation. I still have this command activated. If I had more, then I could click them one by one and then edit quickly all the tag information to the orso.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Martin. I think we are on top of the hour.
So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Again, there will be a recording and a handout of everything. And yeah, so this is our last EMEA session. Maybe we will see again maybe we'll meet again in one of the America sessions. But for now, I say goodbye. Thank you all for joining, and please continue joining these calls. They will just be at a different time. They will be in the afternoon, EMEA time, European time, and they will be held by our American very good colleagues, Jason Drew or Joel Harris, and maybe also myself in some cases. And yeah, same thing, just a different time. So please continue joining us, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.